Here is the brutal truth about that $10,000 sitting in your bank account right now. If you don't give it a job, it will find a way to leave you. And today we are going to map out exactly how to stop that from happening, using the 5 specific steps that separate the wealthy from the broke. It's funny how the human brain works, because the moment you see a 5-figure number in your banking app, maybe it's a tax refund, a bonus, or just the result of you eating instant noodles for 6 months, your brain releases a chemical cocktail that screams, "We are rich." And suddenly, that lifted Toyota Tacoma with the unnecessary tires starts looking less like a bad financial decision and more like a reward you deserve. But here is the reality check that nobody gives you at graduation. $10,000 is a lot of money to have, but it is a terrifyingly small amount of money to spend. If you spend it, it's a fun weekend in Miami and a down payment on a liability. If you deploy it correctly, it's the seed of a dynasty that will feed your family for generations. We are going to walk through this roadmap using logic, math, and a little bit of behavioral psychology. And to make sure this really sinks in, we are going to follow 2 guys. Let's call them Basic Brad and Strategic Sam, who both just woke up with $10,000 in their accounts. And we are going to watch how their lives diverge based on these 5 decisions. Let's start with Basic Brad, who is a great guy, the kind of guy you'd want to grab a beer with. But financially, he is a disaster waiting to happen because he operates on feelings. Brad sees the $10,000 and thinks, finally I can breathe, so he decides to treat himself just a little bit, maybe buy a new gaming setup or put a down payment on a car, because his current car makes a weird noise when he turns left. And after all, he works hard right. Strategic Sam, on the other hand, looks at that money and feels nothing, no excitement, no urge to shop, because he understands that money is just stored energy, and right now his energy needs to be building a shield, which brings us directly to Step 1 of our roadmap, the bankruptcy prevention buffer, or what the boring textbooks call an emergency fund. Now, I know starting a video about wealth by talking about a savings account is like starting an action movie with a scene of someone filing their taxes. It's not sexy, but listen to me. This is the step that prevents you from dying on the financial battlefield. The reality of living in America in 2024 is that it is incredibly expensive to be poor. When you have no cash cushion, a minor inconvenience becomes a major crisis. Let's say both Brad and Sam blow a transmission on their way to work. That is a $3,000 repair bill. Strategic Sam, who followed Step 1 and parked $5,000 to $8,000 of his windfall into a high-yield savings account earning 5% interest, simply swipes his debit card, feels a momentary pinch of annoyance, and drives on with his life. Basic Brad, however, already spent his cash on a down payment for a jet ski he uses twice a year, so when the transmission blows, he doesn't have the money. He has to put that $3,000 on a credit card. Now, because Brad has average credit, he's paying 25% interest. If he pays the minimums, that $3,000 repair will eventually cost him over $8,000 and take him years to pay off. This is the poor tax. It is the penalty for not having liquidity. Step 1 isn't about investing, it's about insurance. It's about taking 3 to 6 months of your basic living expenses, rent, food, utilities, the bare minimum, to keep your heart beating and locking it away in a separate bank account that is hard to touch. You do not invest this money in crypto. You do not put it in the stock market where it can drop 20% in a week. You put it in a boring FDIC-insured high-yield savings account. It sits there. It does nothing. And that is the point. It buys you psychological bandwidth so that when your boss acts like a jerk, you don't panic about losing your job, you just smile because you have a shield. Until this shield is built, you have no business buying stocks, and you certainly have no business buying a new pair of sneakers. Once the shield is in place, and only once the shield is in place, we can look at the single biggest destroyer of wealth in the modern world, which leads us to Step 2, killing the toxic debt. Let's go back to our friend Basic Brad. Brad has that $3,000 on his credit card, and he also has a student loan at 6% and maybe a personal loan he took out to go to a bachelor party in Vegas. He thinks he's being smart by taking his cash and investing it in the stock market because he heard on TikTok that the S&P 500 returns 10% a year. So Brad is investing to earn 10% while he is paying MasterCard 25%. This is what we call negative arbitrage, or in layman's terms, being bad at math. Every dollar Brad invests while holding high-interest debt is a dollar that is actively working against him. There is no investment in the world, not real estate, not stocks, not the shadiest crypto coin, that guarantees you a tax-free, risk-free 25% return. But paying off a credit card does exactly that. When Strategic Sam sees he has a $2,000 balance on a card, he takes his windfall and nukes it immediately. He doesn't negotiate. He annihilates the debt. And we need to be clear about what high-interest debt means. We aren't talking about a 3% mortgage or a 4% car note, though we could argue about the car note later. We are talking about the hair-on-fire debt credit cards, payday loans, personal loans, anything with an interest rate above 6 or 7%. The psychological weight of this debt is crushing. It's like trying to run a marathon while dragging a tire behind you. Basic Brad is trying to sprint, but the tire is heavy. Strategic Sam cuts the rope. By using a portion of his $10,000 to clear the decks, Sam effectively gives himself a raise because that monthly payment that used to go to the bank now stays in his pocket. If you are sitting there with $5,000 in credit card debt and $10,000 in the bank, and you are asking, should I invest? The answer is no. You are effectively borrowing money at 25% to gamble in the market. Pay it off. Be free. It feels better than a new car smells, I promise you. Now that Sam has his shield and has cut the chains of debt, he is standing on solid ground, but he's essentially back to zero or has a smaller pile of cash left. This is where most people lose momentum, but this is actually where the wealth-building engine starts to rev up. Step 3 is where we start playing the game, using the government's rulebook to our advantage, specifically focusing on tax-advantaged retirement accounts. Most people's eyes glaze over when they hear Roth IRA or 401k match, but this is literally free money. Let's say both Brad and Sam work at a company that offers a 401k match. If they contribute 3% of their salary, the company contributes 3%. Basic Brad, who is now cash poor because he bought that jet ski and is servicing his credit card debt, says, I can't afford to put money away for retirement. I need that cash now. He skips the contribution. He just walked past a pile of free money on the sidewalk. That 3% match is a guaranteed 100% return on investment. You put in $1, the company puts in $1. You have doubled your money before you even invested it. Strategic Sam knows this. He sets his contribution to get the full match immediately. But step 3 goes deeper than just the match. We need to talk about the Roth IRA. If Sam has any of that $10,000 left after the shield and the debt paydown, or if he builds it back up from his paycheck, this is where it goes. The Roth IRA is the government's apology for taxing you so much everywhere else. Here is the deal. You take money, you have already paid taxes on your post-tax income, and you put it into this account. You invest it. It grows for 20, 30, 40 years. And when you pull it out in retirement, the government gets zero. Nothing. It is 100% tax-free. Let's look at the math because it is staggering. If Sam invests $6,500, which is around the annual limit, into his Roth IRA at age 25, and he never adds another penny, and it earns a standard 8% return by the time he is 65, that single contribution will have grown to over $140,000. And the tax bill on that $140,000 is zero. Basic Brad, who put his money in a regular brokerage account, Robinhood or whatever, has to pay capital gains tax on all that growth. He loses 15% to 20% of his profit to the IRS. Step 3 is about being kind to old man you. It is about realizing that taxes are likely to go up in the future, so locking in a tax-free bucket now is the smartest hedge you can make. If you have this $10,000 and you haven't maxed out your Roth IRA for the year, you are missing one of the few gifts the IRS gives us. At this point, Strategic Sam is feeling pretty boring. He has a savings account, he has no debt, and he has a retirement account that he can't touch for 30 years. He craves action. He hears his friends at the bar talking about a new biotech stock that is going to the moon or a crypto coin named after a dog breed. This brings us to step 4, the set it and forget it strategy, or specifically index funds. This is the part where human ego usually destroys financial returns. Basic Brad thinks he is smarter than the market. He takes $2,000 and buys stock in a trendy electric vehicle company because he likes the car. He buys high and sells low when he gets scared. The data shows that over a 15-year period, over 90% of professional fund managers, people who wear $5,000 suits, have degrees from Harvard, and stare at Bloomberg terminals for 12 hours a day, cannot beat the S&P 500 index. If the professionals can't do it, what makes Brad think he can do it while sitting on the toilet scrolling through Twitter? Strategic Sam understands that he doesn't need to find the needle in the haystack. He just needs to buy the whole haystack. Step 4 is investing in low-cost index funds like the S&P 500 or a total stock market index. When Sam puts his money here, he owns a tiny piece of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, and 494 other massive profitable companies. If one goes bankrupt, it drops out of the index and is replaced by a new rising star. It is a self-cleansing mechanism. Sam doesn't have to read annual reports. He doesn't have to watch CNBC and panic when the guy with the red face starts yelling. He just buys. Every month. Rain or shine. This is called dollar-cost averaging. When the market crashes, Sam is happy because he is buying shares on sale. When the market booms, Sam is happy because his net worth is going up. He has removed his emotions from the equation. Basic Brad is stressed checking his phone every 5 minutes. Strategic Sam is living his life knowing that the entire American economy is working for him in the background. With your first $10,000, do not try to be a hero. Be the market. The goal isn't to get rich quick. It's to get rich for sure. Now we have covered the defensive moves and the standard investing moves. But there is a mathematical limit to all of this. You can only cut expenses so much. You can't save 100% of your income because you have to eat. You can't budget your way out of a poverty-level salary. This brings us to step 5, which is the most aggressive and potentially the most lucrative step of all. Investing in your own human capital skills. Let's say Strategic Sam has $1,000 left over from his original $10,000. He could put it in the index fund, where it might grow to $10,000 in 30 years. That's nice. But what if he takes that $1,000 and buys a certification course or hires a coach or goes to a conference in his industry? Let's say Sam works in digital marketing. He spends $500 on a course to learn advanced data analytics and SQL. Because of this new skill, he is able to automate reports that used to take his team all week. His boss notices, or better yet, he takes that skill and applies for a job at a competitor. Because he has this new skill, Sam negotiates a $10,000 raise. Think about that return on investment. He spent $500 one time, and he is getting paid $10,000 every single year for the rest of his career because of it. That is a 2,000% return in year 1. Over 10 years, that one skill is worth $100,000. Basic Brad, meanwhile, spent his last $1,000 on a bigger TV to watch Netflix in 4K. His earning potential stayed flat. In fact, with inflation, Brad is actually getting poorer every year because his 2% annual raise doesn't keep up with the cost of milk and eggs. Step 5 is realizing that you are the asset. The stock market is great, but until you have millions of dollars invested, your biggest wealth-building tool is your income, your shovel. The bigger the shovel, the faster you can dig the hole to fill with gold. If you are stuck in a dead-end job making $40,000 a year, the best use of your money isn't the S&P 500. It's a trade school, a boot camp, or a mentorship that gets you to $70,000. Upgrade the machine that's you before you worry about the output. So let's look at the picture we've painted. We started with the same $10,000. Basic Brad has a jet ski, a new gaming PC, a maxed-out credit card, a car with a weird noise that he can't afford to fix properly, and a lot of anxiety. He looks successful on Instagram, but he is one bad week away from ruin. Strategic Sam looks exactly the same as he did before. He drives the same car, he wears the same clothes, but underneath the surface, he is bulletproof. He has cash in the bank to handle emergencies. He has zero consumer debt stealing his paycheck. He has a Roth IRA growing tax-free. He has an ownership stake in the global economy through index funds. And he has a brain that is constantly becoming more valuable. The difference isn't luck. It isn't that Sam is a genius and Brad is an idiot. It's simply the order of operations. It's having a map. The financial industry wants you to be confused. They want you to think it's complicated, so you pay them fees or so you give up and just spend the money. The marketing industry spends billions of dollars to hack your dopamine receptors to make you feel inadequate, so you buy stuff to fill the void. Following these 5 steps is an act of rebellion. It is saying no to the consumerist treadmill and yes to freedom. And that's the word we need to focus on, freedom. Wealth isn't about Lamborghinis or private jets. It's about waking up in the morning and not having a knot in your stomach. It's about knowing that if you want to take a different job or take a month off or help a family member, you can. When you look at that $10,000, don't see it as a shopping spree. See it as an employee. Every single dollar is a little soldier. You can send them off to die for a pair of shoes that will be worn out in a year, or you can recruit them into your army. If you follow step 1, you give them armor. Step 2, you free them from enemy capture. Step 3 and 4, you send them out to capture more territory. And step 5, you upgrade the general yourself. It's not exciting. It won't go viral on TikTok. It's boring, methodical, and slow. But it works. 10 years from now, Basic Brad will still be complaining about the economy and his boss. Strategic Sam will be planning his early retirement. The roadmap is right there in front of you. The math doesn't care about your feelings, and the market doesn't care about your style. The only variable left is you. So take a look at that bank balance again. It's not a windfall. It's a test. Pass it.